Everyone, Miss Wombold here again. So this video we are going to look at angle pairs and relationships. So the first type of angle relationship that we have is vertical angles. So vertical angles are angles that are opposite of each other. So like 1 and 3, they are opposite from each other. They're right across from each other. When we have vertical angles are also equal to each other. So vertical angles are opposite and they're going to be equal. So that means whatever number 1 would equal, number 3 would also equal the same thing. So in this picture, we also have 2 and 4. 2 and 4 are also vertical angles. They're right across from one another. So whatever angle 2 is, angle 4 is the same thing. Sometimes you may be asked to solve for a missing angle, and you need to look at your angles relationships to see if you have a relationship that can tell you whether or not they're equal to each other or how to solve them. So in this case, we have 42 and we have x. Well, if I kind of draw a line through them, I can see that 42 is on the opposite side of x. So they would be vertical angles. And whatever, this is 42, so x then would also have to equal 42. They have to be the same on both sides. So x would equal 42. They have to be equal to each other. The next type of angles that we have are adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are angles that are next to each other, okay? They share a side between them. That's how you know. So it's like having number 1, this is their house right in here, and then number 2 is their neighbor. They live right next door. This is number 1's apartment, this is number 2's apartment, and they share a wall between them. And there is no real kind of connection between them besides them just being next to each other. They're not always going to be equal to each other. One might be bigger than the other, and that's fine. So here's an example of how you would solve for a missing angle. So these are adjacent angles, right? Because if this is X's little apartment over here in red, and then we've got 55 is right here, and if this is 55 apartment, then we see that they share this line in the middle, right? Red has it and green has it, so they're sharing. The whole angle, though, for both of those pieces is equaling 112. So what it kind of looks like is this part right here is 55 degrees of this angle. So we're trying to figure out, well, what is this missing green part that's left? So if the yellow piece is 55, and then we're going to add, because we're combining those two pieces together, we're going to add the x part to it, and we know that both green and yellow combined have to equal 112. So now you could go to Desmos and just type this in, and it will tell you the answer. And let me show you what that looks like. So in Desmos, if I type that in, I have 55 plus x equals 112. I'm going to look for my answer on my graph, and I'm zooming out until I see line, and I'm looking for where does it cross the x-axis. And it'll give you a point, and if you click on it, it tells you 57. So if I go back here, I know that x is going to equal 57. If you're solving it by hand, you would subtract 55 from both sides. and that would cancel out there, and we're left with x equals 112 minus 55 is going to give us 57. So we get the same answer either way. Next type of angles we have are complementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles that add together to make 90 degrees. So if we look here, angle 1 plus angle 2 are complementary because of this little box down here. This little box is a right angle marker. Okay, that means it's 90 degrees. It's like a wall in your house or in our classroom that it has to be, if the walls are not 90 degrees with our floor or our ceiling, we're going to have some problems. They're going to fall in. But if you might also notice from the last thing that adjacent angles are angles that are next to each other, complementary angles are also next to each other. They are just adding together to equal 90 degrees. So if we look at an example, here's an example of one. This box is our indicator to tell us that we're adding together to be 90. So here I've got my marker showing me 90 degrees. So again, I'm going to combine them and add them together. I've got 32 plus x has to equal 90 degrees. Oops, I don't know why that's lying there, but that's okay. Has to equal that 90 degrees because of our little box in the corner. So to solve, I'm going to subtract 32 from both sides, and x is going to equal 68. All right. And the last type of angles that we have are supplementary angles. And supplementary angles are two angles that add up together to be 180. If you look here, I have angle 1 and I have angle 2. They are they're touching this flat straight line. So supplementary angles are always going to be on a flat straight line. Okay? So in this example, we've got 127 here, plus this part here, this x, and if you notice, if I connect them, they're making on the straight line, right? They lay on that straight line. So I'm doing 127 plus my missing part has to equal, supplementary is 180, has to equal up to 180. So I'm going to subtract 127 from both sides. X equals, well, let's see, if you forgot how to do the old school way of subtracting, I'm going to show you. So we need to do 0 minus 7, and that doesn't work. So go to the next door neighbor, and I'm going to have to borrow some stuff. So the 8 is going to cross out and make a 7, and the 0 is going to make a 10. We always add 10 when we borrow. So 10 minus 7 is 3. 7 minus 2 is 5. And 1 minus 1 is 0, so we're done. So x would equal 53. So here's just a quick little recap. Vertical are opposite angles, which I'm also going to add here that they are equal. Adjacent is next to, and complementary has to add to 90, and supplementary has to add to 180.